Captain Kim Jisoo pressed her hands against the control panel as her ship shook violently. The exploration vessel Dauntless was supposed to be doing a simple mining survey on planet Kepler-4 for to see. Instead, they were now fighting for their lives. "Captain, we have big problems," shouted Lieutenant Park Min-ho from his station. His face was covered in sweat as he tried to keep their protective shields working. "These aliens have weapons that are way better than ours. Maybe 3 years better." Jisoo looked out at the enemy ships surrounding them. The alien vessels were sleek and dark, moving through space like hunting cats. They had appeared out of nowhere when her crew discovered the huge crystal buildings on the planet below. What should have been an exciting discovery had quickly become a nightmare. "They're talking to us," called out Communications Officer Lee Salmon. Her voice was shaking as she listened to the alien message through their translation system. "They call themselves the Veltar Confederacy. Captain, they're showing us something terrible." The main screen lit up with horrifying images, burning planets. Cities turned to ash, millions of different alien creatures in chains, working like slaves. The Veltar were showing them what happened to species that refused to obey. A massive alien appeared on the screen. It stood 12 feet tall, with armor that looked like a giant insect's shell. Its eyes were like a fly's eyes, made up of thousands of tiny parts that reflected light. When it spoke, the translation made its voice sound cold and mechanical. "Listen well, humans," the creature said. "You are nothing but pests who have crawled too far from your nest. You will go back to your home world and wait for us to arrive. Your kind will serve us, or your kind will die. There is no other choice." Jisoo watched in horror as more alien ships appeared around them. The few other human exploration vessels in the area were being pushed toward the edge of the solar system like sheep being herded by wolves. The aliens were not just driving the humans away. They were also capturing the local species that lived on the planet, down on Kepler-4 for to see. Gentle sea creatures with large, intelligent eyes were being loaded into alien transport ships. These peaceful beings had done nothing wrong except exist, in a place the Veltar wanted to control. Now they would become slaves, if they were lucky enough to survive. "Minho, get us out of here," Jisoo ordered. "We need to reach Earth and warn them about what's coming." The young lieutenant worked frantically at his controls. "I'm trying, Captain. Their weapons damaged our jump drive. It will take a few minutes to repair." Those few minutes felt like hours. The alien ships followed them closely, making sure they left the system but not destroying them completely. Jisoo realized this was intentional. The Veltar wanted survivors to carry their message back to Earth. They wanted humanity to know what was coming and to be afraid as the Dauntless finally jumped into hyperspace. Jisoo stared at the data they had collected. The Veltar had thousands of ships, weapons that could destroy planets, and an empire that stretched across many star systems. They had been conquering other species for hundreds of years. Captain Soman said quietly, "How many species do you think they've destroyed?" Jisoo looked at the images still showing on their screens. Dozens of different alien races, all now serving the Veltar as slaves. "To many," she answered. "But they made one mistake." Minho looked confused. "What mistake?" "They have better weapons, more ships, and they've beaten everyone else." Jisoo smiled grimly as Earth appeared on their long-range sensors. Home was still days away, but she could already imagine the emergency meetings, the military planning, the fear in people's eyes. When they learned about the Veltar threat, "They think we'll react like all the other species," she explained. "They expect us to either surrender immediately or fight a quick, hopeless battle and then give up." She turned to look at her crew. These young officers had just seen their first real combat, had witnessed the destruction of an innocent species, and had barely escaped with their lives. But instead of looking defeated, they looked angry. "The Veltar have been bullying everyone in this part of the galaxy for centuries," Jisoo continued, Every species they've met has either been too peaceful to fight back effectively or too proud to wait for the right moment. The ship hummed quietly as it traveled through hyperspace toward Earth. In a few days, they would arrive home and deliver news that would change everything. Humanity would learn that they were not alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors wanted to make them slaves. What makes us different? Somin asked. Jisoo looked out at the swirling lights of hyperspace. Humans are patient when we need to be. We can wait, plan, and prepare. And when someone hurts innocent people, we don't forget. She thought about the gentle sea creatures being loaded onto alien ships, about the burned worlds shown in the Veltar's threatening message, about all the species that had been conquered because they couldn't or wouldn't fight back effectively. The Veltar think they've just conquered another weak species, she said. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Ambassador Choi Daeho walked through what used to be the beautiful city of New Busan. Now, it was nothing but melted glass and twisted metal. The air still buzzed with deadly radiation from the alien weapons that had destroyed everything in seconds. 3 million people had lived here just 2 days ago. Now there was only silence and death. The Veltar had not sent ground troops or demanded surrender. They had simply appeared in orbit and turned the entire city into glass with their energy weapons. It was their way of showing humanity what would happen if they refused to obey. Back on Earth, in the emergency government building, President Song Nara stared at the communication screen. The alien commander, called Dekvar, filled the display. He was even more frightening than the reports had described. His body was like a giant insect, standing 12 feet tall, with 4 arms that ended in claws sharp enough to cut through steel. His eyes were made of thousands of small parts that moved independently, watching everything at once. The lesson is simple, Dekvar said in his clicking language. The translation system made his voice sound like a robot. Humans will leave. All planets except your birth world. You will give us rare metals and interesting plants and animals from your world. If you refuse, we will kill every human everywhere. Behind the alien commander, holographic images showed the size of his empire. 10,000 conquered planets, millions of different alien species, working as slaves, warships that could destroy entire solar systems. The Veltar Confederacy was the most powerful force this part of the galaxy had ever seen. President Nara kept her face calm, even though 3 billion humans were watching her response. Every person on Earth knew that their future depended on what she said next. We need time to discuss your offer, she said carefully. The alien's compound eyes focused on her with what might have been amusement. You have 24 Earth hours. Choose wisely, humans. Serve us and live, or fight us and die, like all the others. When the transmission ended, Nara turned to her advisors. The room was filled with the most important people in human government. Defense Minister Kim Taeyang was the first to speak. His old face looked tired and worried. Our military experts have finished their analysis, he said. The aliens have 1,000 times more firepower than we do. If we fight them directly, we will lose in days. Director Han Yeji from the intelligence service leaned forward. What if we don't fight them directly? What if we use different methods? Dr. Yang Jae-won, the government's top scientist, stood up. I have been studying all the information we gathered from Captain Jae-su's encounter. The Veltar have amazing technology, but their way of fighting is always the same. They show up with overwhelming force and demand immediate surrender. He pointed to a chart showing the history of Veltar conquests. Every species they've defeated either gave up right away when they saw the Veltar's power, or they fought a short war and lost within a few months. The aliens have never had to deal with long-term resistance. President Nara nodded slowly as she began to understand. So they expect us to either surrender immediately or fight a quick, hopeless battle. Exactly, Dr. Yang continued. They've conquered so many worlds so easily that they think all species are the same. They don't understand that humans might react differently. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Finally, Nara spoke again. Then we give them exactly what they expect to see. For now. The next day, President Nara appeared on every communication channel in human space. Her message was broadcast to Earth, to all the colony worlds, and even to the Veltar fleet watching from orbit. After careful consideration, she announced, humanity accepts the terms offered by the Veltar Confederacy. We will withdraw from all worlds beyond our solar system. We will provide the tribute they have demanded. We choose survival over destruction. Across human space, colony ships began loading refugees and equipment for the journey back to Earth. Tribute shipments of rare metals and biological specimens were prepared for delivery to Veltar collection points. To anyone watching, it looked like humanity had joined the long list of species that chose slavery over death. The Veltar commanders were pleased with how quickly the humans had surrendered. It had taken less than a week to break them completely. Commander Dekvar reported to his superiors that humanity was now a compliant subject species, ready to serve the Confederacy like all the others. But deep in hidden government facilities on Earth, a very different kind of preparation was beginning. Scientists started analyzing every piece of Veltar technology they could find. Military planners began studying alien tactics and looking for weaknesses. Intelligence agents started learning alien languages and cultures. President Nara met with her closest advisors in a secure bunker, deep underground. "How long do we have?" she asked. "The tribute system will keep them happy for years," Director Han replied. "They'll expect us to be obedient servants. They won't be watching us carefully." Dr. Yang smiled grimly. "That gives us time to learn everything about them. Time to develop new technologies. Time to plan." Defense Minister Kim looked around the room. "This won't be a normal war. It might take decades." President Nara nodded. "Then we'd better get started. The Veltar think they've conquered humanity. They have no idea that they've just given us the greatest gift possible. Time to prepare for the fight of our lives." Above them, alien ships patrolled Earth's orbit, confident that another species had been broken. They had no idea that humanity's real war was just beginning. 27 years had passed since humanity had bowed their heads and accepted slavery to the Veltar. Fleet Admiral Park Jinwoo floated quietly in the observation room of a secret space station called Hidden Harbor. The station was built in the empty space between star systems, where no alien sensors could find it. Around him, dozens of human warships moved like silent ghosts through the darkness. These ships looked nothing like the crude vessels humanity had used before the Veltar came. They were sleek and beautiful, built with technology that the galaxy had never seen. "Give me a report," Jinwoo said to his assistant, Commander Omen. "All our secret bases are working perfectly," she replied, reading from her datapad. "The Prometheus project has created 47 new types of weapons and tools. Our scientists say we now have technology as good as the Veltar in most areas. In 12 important areas, we're actually better than them." Jinwoo nodded as he watched the massive battleship called Retribution getting ready for combat. The ship was 3 times larger than anything humanity had built before, but it moved through space like a hunting bird. Unlike the ugly heavy ships the Veltar preferred, human vessels were designed for speed and accuracy. "What about Operation Mapmaker?" Jinwoo asked. "Finished completely," Minjung answered with pride in her voice. "We know the location of every Veltar planet, every supply base, every military station." Agent Seo Hanwoo spent 15 years living among them as a slave worker. He got us detailed maps of their most important defenses, including their capital world. For almost 30 years, humanity had been perfect slaves. They delivered their tribute payments on time. When Veltar commanders gave orders, humans obeyed quickly and politely. To everyone watching, it looked like the human spirit had been completely broken. But that was exactly what humanity wanted everyone to think. Hidden in secret bases scattered across space. The smartest humans who had ever lived worked day and night. Scientists took apart every piece of Veltar technology they could steal or find. They learned how alien computers worked, how their weapons functioned, how their ships flew through space. Military experts studied every battle the Veltar had ever fought. They identified weaknesses in alien tactics and found patterns in how the Confederacy operated. Engineers designed new weapons specifically to destroy Veltar defenses. Most importantly, intelligence agents had spent decades infiltrating the Confederacy. Some pretended to be loyal slave workers and slowly gained access to important information. Others disguised themselves as members of other alien species and worked their way into Veltar military units. Dr. Lim Sung-hoon approached Jinwoo with a satisfied smile on his face. He was now the director of advanced weapons research, responsible for creating humanity's most secret and powerful weapons. The patient's protocol is ready to begin, he announced. We have identified and ranked every important target in the Confederacy. Each one has been chosen for its military value and its symbolic meaning. Jinwoo smiled coldly when he heard the name. He had suggested calling it the patient's protocol himself. It was meant to remind everyone that humanity's greatest weapon was not their new technology or their hidden fleet. Their greatest weapon was their ability to endure suffering, to plan carefully, and to wait for exactly the right moment to strike. During the long years of preparation, there had been many times when humans wanted to fight back immediately, when Veltar commanders were particularly cruel, when tribute demands became especially harsh, when news arrived of other species being destroyed. Many people had wanted to reveal their secret weapons and attack, but the leadership had always counseled patience. They knew they would only get one chance to surprise the Veltar. If they revealed themselves too early, before they were completely ready, the aliens might crush them before humanity could complete their preparations. Now, finally, that patience was about to pay off. How many humans know the truth about our preparations? Jinwoo asked. Fewer than 10,000, Minjung replied. The vast majority of our people still believe we are truly defeated. This helps maintain the deception. Even if the Veltar captured and questioned random humans, they would only hear stories of submission and despair. Through the observation windows, Jinwoo could see more ships arriving at Hidden Harbor. Sleek destroyers, massive cruisers, and support vessels carrying weapons that could tear through Veltar shields like paper. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had trained in secret for years, waiting for this moment. Sir, Dr. Lim continued, our psychological warfare division has also completed their preparations. Every attack will be accompanied by messages explaining exactly why we chose each target. We want the Veltar to understand that this is not random destruction. This is justice. Jinwoo turned away from the window and faced his senior staff. These men and women had dedicated their entire adult lives to this moment. Some had children who had grown up never knowing their parents' true work. Others had sacrificed personal relationships and normal lives for the sake of humanity's freedom. Send the signal to all units, he commanded. After 27 years of appearing weak, after 27 years of bowing our heads and accepting insults, after 27 years of patience, it's time to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. The war was about to begin, and the Veltar had no idea what was coming for them. Veltar High Commander Zekmith had been in charge of the Kepler sector for 60 years. In all that time, he had never met a problem he couldn't solve by using massive force and fear. So when his communications officer told him that Commander Velkris had not reported in as scheduled, Zekmith thought it was just a broken radio. When 3 more commanders stopped responding over the next week, he started to worry about sabotage. When entire supply ships began disappearing completely, he knew the humans were somehow involved. That's impossible, hissed his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Thakfon. His insect-like mouth parts clicked together with nervous energy. The humans are completely defeated. They have obeyed us perfectly for almost 30 years. They send their tribute payments on time, and they act like proper slaves. Zekmoth stared at the tactical display that showed where all the attacks had happened. He couldn't see an obvious pattern, but something about these seemingly random strikes bothered him deeply. "Contact the human representative immediately," he ordered. Within minutes, Ambassador Na Sungmin appeared on the communication screen. He looked worried and eager to help, just like humans had looked for the past 3 decades. "Hi, Commander," Na said with a respectful bow. "How can we serve you today? Your people will explain these attacks on Confederacy property," Zekmoth demanded, his voice full of threat. Na's confusion looked completely real. "Attacks? Hi, Commander. We don't know about any attacks. All human ships are accounted for and working under Confederacy supervision. Maybe these problems are being caused by one of the other slave species." Before Zekmoth could respond, alarm sirens began screaming throughout his command ship. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. "Sir," shouted his tactical officer in panic, "we're getting reports of huge explosions at all the Veltar mining facilities on Rigel 7. The main display screen filled with images of destruction. But these weren't the crude, messy explosions that terrorist groups usually made. These were precise, surgical strikes that had somehow gotten past the Confederacy's most advanced security systems. Each explosion had been perfectly timed to cause maximum damage to important buildings, while carefully avoiding areas where civilians might be hurt. But what made Zekmoth's blood run cold was the message that began broadcasting on every Confederacy communication channel at exactly the same time. A human officer he had never seen before appeared on screen, wearing a military uniform that Zekmoth didn't recognize. The human spoke with quiet confidence and deadly calm. "This is Fleet Admiral Park Jinwoo of the Human Defense Coalition," the officer said. "For 27 years, you have tested our patience. You destroyed our colonies. You enslaved our people. You demanded that we bow down before you. We gave you exactly what you asked, for time to become lazy and careless, time to forget that a patient hunter is still a hunter." The transmission suddenly showed detailed technical drawings of every facility that had just been destroyed. It also showed tactical analysis that proved humans had been secretly studying Veltar defenses for decades, learning every weakness and vulnerability. "The testing phase of our response has now begun," Admiral Park continued. "Each target was chosen for its military importance and its symbolic meaning. You wanted to see if humanity would break under pressure. Instead, you gave us time to transform ourselves into something you have never faced before, an enemy that plans in decades and strikes with perfect accuracy." The transmission showed more images, secret human facilities that the Veltar had never detected, advanced weapons that used technology the Confederacy didn't understand, and detailed maps of every important Veltar installation in the galaxy. "For nearly 30 years, we have watched you torture innocent species across this region of space. We have seen you destroy entire civilizations for the crime of wanting to remain free. We have memorized every cruelty, cataloged every injustice, and planned our response to each one." Zekmoth's hands were shaking as he tried to turn off the transmission, but it was being broadcast on frequencies he couldn't block. Every ship in his fleet was hearing this message. Worse, it was being transmitted to Veltar High Command, to other sector commanders, and to the enslaved populations on dozens of worlds. "The age of Veltar dominance is ending," Admiral Park concluded. "You called us vermin and pests. You said we were weak because we chose submission over immediate destruction. You were wrong. We chose patience over rage, planning over desperation, and precision over brute force." The transmission ended with a final warning. "This is just the beginning. Every attack will be announced in advance. Every target will be explained. You will know exactly why each facility was chosen, and exactly how we penetrated your defenses. We want you to understand that your defeat is not random or chaotic. It is methodical, inevitable, and just. When the message finally ended, Zekmoth's command bridge was completely silent. His officers stared at their instruments in shock and disbelief. In 60 years of conquest, none of them had ever heard such cold, calculated menace. Subcommander Thakvan was the first to speak. "Sir, what are your orders?" Zekmoth looked around at his staff. These aliens had served the Confederacy their entire lives, crushing resistance and terrorizing weaker species. They had never encountered an enemy that could hide from them for decades, strike without warning, and demonstrate such perfect knowledge of Confederacy operations. "Send an immediate message to High Command," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tell them the humans are no longer acting like prey. They're acting like predators, and they've been hunting us for 30 years without us even knowing it." The final battle for Veltar Prime began as the sun rose over the Confederacy's capital world. Fleet Admiral Kim Jisoo stood on the command bridge of her massive warship called Final Answer. She was now 73 years old, her hair silver with age, but her eyes were still sharp and determined. 50 years had passed since she was a young captain who barely escaped the first Veltar attack. Now she commanded the most powerful fleet humanity had ever built, facing the last stronghold of the alien empire that had once seemed invincible. "Give me a status report," she ordered. Captain Yoon. Minseok looked up from his tactical display. "The enemy has gathered all their remaining forces around their home planet. We count 12,000 ships, including their biggest warships and the planetary defense system." Jisoo nodded calmly. She had spent half her life preparing for this moment. First as a young explorer who witnessed Veltar cruelty, then as one of the planners of humanity's careful, patient response. Her uniform had a simple message written on it. "They tested our patience. Open a communication channel to High Command," she instructed. The main screen lit up with the face of Supreme Commander Zekanash, the ultimate leader of the Confederacy. For the first time in 50 years, Jisoo saw fear in a Veltaris compound eyes. "I am Fleet Admiral Kim Jisoo," she announced. 50 years ago, I was the captain of an exploration ship that first met your kind. You called us insects. You said we would either surrender or die. Around the Veltar homeworld, human ships began appearing out of hyperspace. They moved in perfect formation, their sleek designs unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These vessels carried weapons that used technology the Confederacy couldn't even understand. "We chose a third option," Jisoo continued. "We chose to wait, to learn about you, to prepare ourselves. And now, after 50 years of watching you hurt innocent people across the galaxy, we give you the same choice you once gave us." The transmission changed to show images from across Veltar space. Of the Confederacy's original 10,000 worlds, fewer than 50 were still under their control. Every slave species had been freed. The Veltar fleets had been destroyed in battle after battle. Their technology had been captured and improved upon by human scientists. "Surrender completely, end the Confederacy, and face justice for your crimes," Jisoo said, "or refuse, and learn what real extinction looks like." Zekanash's mouthparts clicked together frantically. "This is impossible. We are the Veltar. We have ruled this part of space for thousands of years. You are just one species, out of millions." Jisoo's face remained calm and emotionless. "That's probably what every species that no longer exists used to think. You have 60 seconds to make your choice." The Veltar Supreme Commander looked around at his remaining officers. In their eyes, he could see the same terrible understanding. The humans were not making empty threats. They had spent 50 years proving that they always did exactly what they promised to do. We choose to fight," Zekanash finally declared, though his voice shook with uncertainty. Jisoo let out a small sigh. "I understand. All human units, begin the final attack." The Battle of Veltar Prime lasted exactly 14 minutes. Human weapons that had been designed specifically to destroy Confederacy defenses cut through the alien ships like a knife through paper. The planetary shields that the Veltar thought could never be broken were neutralized by technologies they had never imagined possible. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Every shot was aimed precisely. Every maneuver was calculated for maximum effect. There was no waste, no unnecessary destruction, just the methodical elimination of a military force. When the battle ended, the Veltar Confederacy simply no longer existed. It had not been destroyed by anger or revenge, but surgically removed from the galaxy by a species that had learned the most dangerous lesson of all. Sometimes the only way to create lasting peace is to make war so swift and complete that no one would ever dare to repeat the same mistakes. As Jisoo watched the last Veltar ships surrender, she thought about the frightened young captain she had once been. That woman had fled from alien weapons, wondering if humanity would survive their first meeting with a hostile galaxy. Humanity had done more than just survive. They had learned the value of patience, careful planning, and striking at exactly the right moment. Around Veltar Prime, the human fleet began broadcasting messages to the liberated populations throughout former Confederacy space. The age of slavery and oppression was over. Species that had served the Veltar for centuries were now free to govern themselves. "Admiral," Captain Yoon said quietly, "we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Veltar installations across the galaxy." Jisoo nodded. "Accept their surrenders. Begin humanitarian operations immediately. The galaxy has seen enough destruction." She looked out at the stars, thinking about all the species that would now have a chance to live freely. The Veltar had made one critical mistake 50 years ago. They had assumed that patience was the same thing as weakness. They had learned too late that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who takes time to prepare properly. Humanity had waited 50 years for this moment, and their patience had made all the difference between victory and defeat. The war was over, and the galaxy would never be the same.